What is up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Hamis Tang, and in this world, everybody likes to choose their sides. You're either Team Iron Man or Team Captain America, Pepsi or Coca-Cola, Marvel or DC, McDonald's or Burger King, Nadal or Federer, and when it comes to the tech world, iOS or Android. So in today's video, it's not about saying which one is the ultimate best, because I do believe that both of them, they do have their strengths and weaknesses to each other. This video is about basically my experience as a long-term Android user switching over to an iOS device for the very first time. And over here, I have the iPhone 12 mini. So like I said, I have been using Android phones for the past 10 years or so. I've only used an iPad before. I've only used an iPod Touch when it first launched, but I have never used an iPhone before. It's going to be pretty interesting seeing there's a lot of stuff over here that of course that they don't have on most Android phones, and also there's stuff that they don't have here that they do have on Android phones. So in today's video, I'm going to break it into different segments and I'm going to give you my final verdict at the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing I talk about here is the build and design when it comes to iPhones. Yes, it does look very premium and very, of course, shiny to show off to a lot of people. Of course, let's be real, there's a lot of premium devices from Android as well. There's Samsung, Huawei, and many other brands as well. But let's be real again, most of the time when you bring out an iPhone, heads will turn. It's easier to start a conversation. In a party, I gotta say maybe 6 out of 10 will carry an iPhone. The rest probably a mixed bag of many other Android users. So I gotta say that one goes to probably Apple when it comes to this aspect. But one thing I don't really like is the ugly ass notch over on the top of here. This has been here since the iPhone 10. And it's pretty annoying seeing that their design has never changed for the past 3 to 4 years. It's kind of their trend not to change the design. And when you look at most Android phones, you will notice that every year, and sometimes even in the same year, comparing it from the Pro model to the maybe Ultra model, there's always a kind of design change. But when it comes to Apple over here, the 12 mini, 12, 12 Pro, and 12 Pro Max, the design are always the same throughout the whole lineup. Some people like that, it's a bit more consistent, but I gotta say, every year you gotta change your design a little bit, just make it a bit more relevant, but you know what, it is what it is. Next thing I want to talk about here is the Apple ID, and yes, you must have an Apple ID to use your iPhone. With most Android phones, you gotta use your Google account, and that is already set up. It's easier to switch between Android phones, because once you have a Google account there, it's just easier to set up on another phone. Yes, you have stuff like Samsung account, Huawei account, Xiaomi, and the rest as well, but you don't necessarily need them to start off your phone. Over here on the iPhone, you must have an Apple ID. And the thing is, you don't have a Google account and you have to re-download stuff like YouTube, Google Chrome, Google Keyboard, and all these other essential Google apps. And you got to set it up separately. But once you get it sorted out, it's actually pretty much not a big deal. But again, when it comes to stuff like gaming and so on, if you've used an Android phone before, you have saved all your data, all your achievements in the Google Cloud, it's a bit harder to transfer here, because again, you got to choose between Apple ID or a Google account. And of course, there are some perks here and there, but then again, there's always two sides you got to choose, even when you're using an iOS device. So the next thing is pretty interesting, seeing that Apple was the first one to introduce this feature with the iPhone 10. Something we call gestures. So yes, you can see here, I can swipe up to go back, and I can swipe back over here to go back. But again, it's pretty limited, seeing that you only can swipe on the left side of the screen. You cannot use the right side, and I don't understand why. They could have just simply implemented this, and I know most of us are right-handed anyway, so it's pretty annoying to swipe all the way to the left. Over here, you can see that I'm not really struggling that much, because this is the iPhone 12 mini. It is a very tiny phone, but if you're using something like the 12 or even the 12 Pro Max with a case on it, it's going to be a bit of a hassle to swipe all the way from the other side of the screen all the way back just to move back again. And you don't have any buttons on the bottom here to go back, and sometimes you gotta click all the way on the top left to go back, which I think is a bit annoying if you're very used to the gestures on most Android phones. So talking about limitations, let's go to the iOS side of things. Over here you can see my apps are all very scattered, and you can see something here which is pretty interesting, which is widgets. And yes, they've implemented widgets on the iOS 14 update, and it's pretty interesting seeing that yes, it is pretty impressive as well. And most Android phones have been having this since, you know, Android was first created. I gotta say, yes, they do some things really well. As you can see here, I can put certain widgets into this widget over here. I can put multiple functions into it. You have your email account, you have your stuff like YouTube Music, you have your battery indicator, which you can of course toggle here and there. But then again, it is pretty limited. You cannot change the size of this, you cannot change a lot of stuff, and it's actually pretty preset. You cannot even change what kind of settings you want in this multiple widget option. And yes, when you go to the home screen, you don't have a app drawer like on most Android phones. What you can do is go to the right side here, you have your app suggestions list or your app library, or you can even go down here. If you just click long enough and you just kind of wiggle, you can click on the bottom here and you can just kind of erase the page that you don't want. Yes, that is sort of the only workaround when it comes to iOS devices. And like I said, it's a bit limited, but I kind of feel that yes, if you're okay with it, probably, you know, you won't really complain about it too much. The next thing here I'm going to talk about is the fact that you can't off your phone, and I know this is a Apple thing where they don't want to off the phone because of Steve Jobs. So you cannot even click long enough for this to be activated. This will come with voice control. So what you can do is just click on the bottom here and your volume key. It's a bit of a traditional way to off your phone, which I think, you know, you kind of just need to update this kind of stuff. You know, it's 2021, gotta have something new. But maybe they just want to keep this because of Steve Jobs. But overall, I have to say, when it comes to the apps you download from the Apple Store, it is much more optimized compared to most of them on the Android side on the Google Play Store. I do stuff like video editing, photo editing on my phones, and over here when I use Adobe Rush, it is a bit more smooth and it's a bit more complete compared to what I have on most of my Android phones. It is a bit more enjoyable and smooth to use it on an iOS device. And when you look at stuff like Instagram, when you post a photo, the quality doesn't drop. But on most Android phones, doesn't matter if you have a 108 megapixel camera, when you upload it on Instagram, the quality would drop. And it's not the same thing when it comes to iPhones. And one thing I gotta say is when it comes to the notifications, you have tons of notifications. Like over here, because I'm using this as my secondary device, but when I was using this as my primary device, you have stuff like your WhatsApp, your Google Messages, all this other stuff that's always appearing here, and it kind of clouds it. And it's a bit annoying seeing that you have to, one by one, you have to erase it. And with most of Android phones, you can kind of customize it. You can choose which kind of notifications from a specific app you want to show. But over here, you don't really have that option. But of course, do leave a comment down below if you have any tips or tricks when it comes to this aspect of the notifications on the home screen. But overall, I gotta say, using an iOS device, it's as smooth as you want. Although you don't have your 120Hz, you don't have your 90Hz display, everything here, the transition, the animations, they do a very good job when it comes to it. Display over here is really good, and I got no complaints when it comes to the overall smoothness and stability when it comes to an iOS device. So next thing I'll talk about here is security. And I gotta say, security here is very impressive. It's much more secure than most Android phones anyway. But I gotta say, one thing I don't really like is the fact that they do not have a Touch ID on the side over here. This phone was released end of 2020 when a lot of stuff already happened. They could have just implemented a small Touch ID on the side, because a lot of us are wearing a lot of face masks, and a lot of times I have to take out my face mask to unlock this phone to kind of use it. And it's a bit annoying seeing that, you know, in 2021 as well, in 2022, we don't know how long this one will go. They could have just given us a Touch ID on the side here, which they did with the iPhone SE. So next thing here I want to talk about is updates when it comes to most iPhones, and it is very frequent, and you're going to get it for a very good amount of years. When they release it for a iPhone 12, they will release it for the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. So it's very consistent, and it's something I really do like. Most Android phones, they will give you good updates for the first 3 months, but after that, they kind of slow down, and after that 1 year mark, they don't sometimes even give you any more updates. So on most of these iOS devices, I really like the fact that, you know, they do kind of keep this phone in mind, and you know that they will still kind of give you good updates with this phone, and you can use it for the next 4 to 5 years. So the second last thing I'll talk about here are the cameras, and I have done a camera comparison video with the S20 FE and the OnePlus 8T, so you can check out how good are the shots taken over here. And I gotta say, yes, photos and videos are taken very nicely over here. The colors, details are all very good, and it kind of follows even from the iPhone 8, iPhone 6 and all that, so you don't have to worry about the cameras being outdated in the next 4 to 5 years. It will be very good, so I got no complaints about the cameras on this iPhone 12 mini. So the last thing I'll talk about here is the resale value when it comes to iOS devices, and it's very impressive because you know in most Android phones, even after the first month, you will see the big companies even lowering down their prices for some sales. But with Apple, they don't really do that. They don't really change the price. So even after 6 months, if you want to sell your phone, most of the time you can even sell it at a very good price. And if you're the type of guy that changes your phone quite frequently, this will be a good thing for you because you won't be losing too much money. But for most Android phones, like I said, the value will drop tremendously even after the first 3 months. So my final thoughts of using an iOS device for the very first time, I gotta say, I thought initially it would take some time to get used to it, but I gotta say it's very simple to use, very easy to use. Yes, I do miss a lot of things on my Android phones, but then again, I do like certain stuff that they do have inside here that they do not have on most Android phones. And I gotta say, it's actually pretty easy switching from an Android phone to an iOS device for me, even in 2021. So do let me know in the comments down below if you're thinking of switching over either from Android to iOS or iOS to Android. Do let me know how's your experience so far with one of those sites. So if you did enjoy this video, do click that like and smash that subscribe button down below for more videos like this in the future. Do also follow me on my socials as well on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also here on YouTube at Dr. Hummus Tech. So that is it. This is Dr. Hummus Tech. Stay safe, take care, and wash those hands.